Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. This is Motion Design Studio's audio blog. Today, the title of our segment is Actions Are More Important Than Words. We're going to review an excerpt from the book by the author Robert W. Firestone, titled The Fantasy Bond, subtitle Structure of Psychological Defenses, published on December 1st, 1987, by Glendon Associates. My name is Lex Peters, and I am the founder of Motion Design Studio's blog. And I'm here with
Darlene Zimmerman. I am Meta Noah Healing Arts. You can find me on both Facebook and Instagram at Meta Noah Healing Arts, and as Darlene Zim, Z-I-M-M, on Facebook.
Great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start this off by a reading from the book, Fantasy Bond, and actually, before we do that, Darlene, do you mind just describing to us why is it that this book is so? Why was it so important to you? Why do you think this book has done what it's done for you, or shall I say that you've chosen this book today to review a little bit of for your fans?
Sure. So I first found this book when I was on my inner journey of trying to heal myself from my trauma that I'd become aware of. And this book was a very important part of that path and understanding myself better and the dynamics that were happening in my family and my family dynamics that also bled into my romantic relationship at the time. And it was just a really important book to really help me on that journey of understanding myself better. It just landed at a beautiful time. And it just covers the topic of family and relationships so well. I think that's the best way to sum it up and without talking about it for hours.
Nice. So, as avid readers, one of the important things that I have picked up over time is that a good book is really very revealing at times. It allows you to just... sometimes, you're searching for a solution to a problem, and it's not coming from your peers. It's not coming from the voices that you are surrounding yourself with, or the voices that are passively infiltrating your experiences. And so a good piece of literature can really transform your experience in the world and your perspective, and create a whole other level of consciousness. So today we're going to explore an excerpt from this book. And it's going to, I feel, as we dive into this, you'll see a little bit more why this piece of literature, The Fantasy Bond, subtitled Structure of Psychological Defenses, is such an important contribution in Western psychology. So, with that being said, Darlene, do you want to share with us what this excerpt is?
Absolutely. So the excerpt is. It is composed of a spoken manifest message and an opposite underlying latent meaning or action. Parents and family members continually give each other mixed message to cover up their real sentiments. For example, a parent who tells a child, "It is time to go to bed, you need your rest," might be camouflaging a real desire to be free of the child for the evening, or might be attempting to hide a more general rejecting attitude. The child picks up the underlying message in the parent's tone and voice, body language, and expressive movements, but is confused by the words. The child realizes on a deep level that he or she is receiving two contradictory messages. However, because of the child's dependency on the parents and the need to believe their words, the child must sacrifice his or her own sense of reality. Having one's sense of reality distorted can lead to a serious psychological disturbance, particularly when rejection is denied consistently with double messages from one's parents. In a couple bond, men and women give double messages far more often than they realize. If they honestly stated what they really thought or deeply felt, they would be breaking the implicit pact to maintain the pretense of love and therefore the form of their relationship. Believing the words of one's mate while ignoring the actions can lead to serious distortions of reality. End of excerpt.
Wow. So who can raise their hand and say that they haven't done that before? I don't know about you, but I definitely am I'm a culprit of that, Darlene, and I can tell you for sure I have done that so many times. As a matter of fact, I've even advocated for it too at times, and I'll tell you why I did it, right? So one of the reasons why I have advocated for not being, I guess in some sense this would fall into the category of like fully transparent, right? It's because there is sometimes one's immediate response to the environment, the situation, whether it's a level of discomfort, right, might be not the right response. As in, not right as in like we're not all valid, as in like we are not all not. Yeah, okay, let me back up a little bit. When I say the appropriate response at the time, we all have our feelings, but not all feelings are very much needed to be shared, or shall I say, sometimes you are overreactive, and you might be able, especially if you've done a lot of self work, you can say like, okay, at this moment, I definitely know that I'm bent out of shape, and this person wants to check in with me to say, is everything okay? How are we doing? And then instead of being very much transparent and with like the true feelings that I'm experiencing right now, I would suppress them because I recognize like, okay, it's not important to be so overly responsive at this moment, not because I'm diminishing myself or I want to live in this state of like dishonesty to my partner, but more along the lines of just like, listen man, I'm emotional, what I'm going to say is going to tamper with the flow of things, and I want to have a great time, and I don't think it's important for me to even talk about this, and I know in time this will pass, and I'm going to feel better. And that's just something that I've done a lot of times, And so in some sense, that's my mode of operation a lot of times in romantic relationships, which seems to be in lines with like this, what you just shared in this excerpt, which is a kind of a violation of that. I don't know. That's what triggers me immediately. Yeah.
Got it. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Processing that.
Right.
Trying to formulate a response.
Sure. Am I hurt in the relationship at that point, though? Or shall I say, did my example fall neatly into the description of this?
I think it would, because that person can sense that you're annoyed and you're angry by your body language, and probably the way your eyes and mouth or your movement, especially if they know you well.
You're right.
They'll know when you're distressed. So yeah, it would harm the relationship. It depends. I think it'll be important to how you respond, and maybe try it and still have a level of transparency. Like, yes, right now I'm struggling with my emotions, and then maybe do it short. Like, I think this will pass, or I really want to have fun. We can talk about it later, like later tonight, or tomorrow, or whenever we're in a better space to talk about it without it escalating into something more dramatic, because right now my limbic system is super aroused. I mean, there could be many ways that you could express that and still be honest without saying, oh no, everything's great, this is good, and act like everything's like super happy, which I think is what it's talking about.
Oh, I see. It's funny.
How can you find that little bit of transparency?
Right, yes, I know what you're saying. And I can say that part of the reasons why I would, or should I say I have opted to not even say that I will approach this later, it's because for myself, I feel that I've gotten to a point where when I look around me, and I observe my experience in the world, and I experience and the way I look at time, right? I say to myself, what I'm experiencing right now, whatever frustrations I'm experiencing, are insignificant. In other words, tomorrow will happen, the day after that will happen, right? and these things, whatever it is, will pass, And so I don't put a lot of emphasis on a lot of things that I don't want to talk about a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I just don't want to get heavily involved in like things that are like problems that can pass. I just don't want to do it. So I tend to just avoid those things. And of course, I absolutely agree with you. The other person, especially if they know you, and God forbid they're particularly adroit at reading body language and para language, they're going to see that you're deceiving them. They're going to experience it. You couldn't hide it. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, from you it'd be like, oh my God, I'm dating Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, not fun. I'd rather go for Frankenstein, but either way, the point is just like you're going to you can't disguise it, and I feel that. I like what you're saying. It's best to just acknowledge that you are having an emotionally challenging moment, right? And instead of just having the person guess, Another thing, too, why I kind of would opt to not say we'll talk about it later, I'm concerned about the other person, the way they process conflict. Because sometimes the idea of we'll talk about it later can be like this lingering thing in their minds, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Am I going to get poked in the eye? Who knows whatever things are going to conjure up in our minds. So that, in my mind, I'm trying to front the burden of the conflict, right? And I'm trying to ameliorate any sort of like anxiety that I might cause in the other person. But it's a weird thing because in my silence, I'm also probably creating the same kind of anxiety. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to figure out. You got to play it by situation and also personality type. Yeah. How you're dealing with that person, where they are at that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More integrated personalities will not struggle with the I'll wait till later, because they'll get it. Be like, oh, yeah, maybe I want to wait till later too.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I understand that some people, that would be difficult, but there's going to be anxiety either way, absolutely, because it's already, So, do you have like a great example to share?
Sure.
Like a more,
so something more
tangible.
Yes, absolutely.
Example?
Sure. Oh man, I hate when you put me on the spot. I like it. Let me think about this.
It's not too personal.
Right. I'll leave the names and social security numbers out of this one. Okay,
exactly.
I gotcha. Boy, I feel that.
Like, what's an example of like something that you feel is you might get upset about, but you will definitely suppress?
Absolutely, sure. Thank you. So make it that's a lot easier, right? Let's say I struggle a bit with time. If I am, let's say we are together, right? And we are planning to depart from the same home and to go somewhere, and you are, kind of just doing a lot of things to prepare yourself for the departure, whatever that might be.
Makeup.
Exactly, makeup, hair, nails, teeth. Clothes. I don't know. Who knows what you're doing?
Sewing some clothes too.
Right, exactly. Now it's time to take out the sewing thread. A thread in the machine. Whatever it is you got to do to prep yourself for the departure. Right. I am fairly quick with like getting ready and leaving. Right. So I've had these experiences.
Generally, guys are.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess I'm. Hey guys.
Generally,
yeah, guys, I'm defending you here. Well, not defending you. We're not attacked. No one's getting attacked. But I'm stating something. I'm your proxy right now. So yes, I tend to be able to get ready to go quickly. So in some sense, at times I've experienced some frustrations with people that I have dated with. Like, oh, okay, they are very slow about this, because of the preparation process, and I'm just like, well, why does it matter? It's. All we're doing is going to this restaurant, and all they care about is money. That's it. Do you have money? You could be the most ugliest person, and all they want you to have is money.
But the person is dressing up for you, so it's not about the restaurant. Just saying.
Really? Oh, well, I don't know. I guess in some sense I would have to test that, I'd have to be like, true. Hey, let's go to a restaurant, I'll meet you there, and see like what happens, Or I'll just like say like, what was the last time you went to a restaurant? What did you wear? I can fly it. But most people don't even go to restaurants by themselves. So they probably would be dressing for somebody else then at that point. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
All right, exactly. But I definitely have gone on my own personal dates to restaurants multiple times.
Me too.
Right. And I don't particularly get dressed up. Not one bit.
Yeah,
but anyway, right? So
the same as when
right, exactly. So that's an example. Okay, great. You know, here I got a perfect example now. You've just totally primed me. I'm ready to share something with you. So I'm hanging out with the girlfriend. I don't have one girlfriend. If you're out there, just letting you know, there's no girlfriend. So this is an ex. Let me be really clear about this. And the ex, right, is very, very much into like, I need to look a certain kind of way before I go to a restaurant. And I'm confused. I'm just like, but we're at this park doing all these physical activities, and now the restaurant is less than 500 feet, maybe even less from us. I just want to walk there right now. But the ex is like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't look appropriate. And I'm getting angry right now because I know... And there's no way, right, that we're going to go to this restaurant and there's going to be an issue with our parents in any manner for us to acquire service, unless I'm like shirtless and no shoes. I mean, that's the only reason why I would say we would not acquire any service. So it's frustrating to me that that's something that I had to deal with, right? So what did I do? I played the fifth. I was like, you know what? I'm good. Sure. Great. So we went through the whole process of this ex going back to their home, getting prepared just to go out to eat something where we could just gone and done it right there at that time. Yeah, that was a real thing, you know, and that was a moment when I was like, you know what, this is the way that the person feels that they need to be in the world when they're doing certain types of activities. And a lot of people do that, you know, they have like, this is my yoga outfit, this is my workout outfit, this is my dinner outfit, you know, this is my go to a party outfit, you know, things like that. You're just like, oh, okay, you have outfits for special things. I kind of have a very flexible outfit. I can wear pretty much mostly anything, anywhere, you know, and still feel really comfortable because I know at the end of the day, it's me that's important, and being there, that's always the acme of the experience. I'm there. You want me, my personality, what's in my head, you know, not what's on this facade. So to me, like dinners and stuff and getting prepared, that was just frustrating. So it's a long-winded answer to your question. That was a moment when I suppressed my my discomfort or annoyance with the situation, only to make sure that, like, you know, because I'm looking now, my empathetic self is like kicking in, like, okay, this person needs to represent themselves this way, you know. So I don't get angry at that. I didn't get angrier.
Got it.
Yeah, I was able to suppress it.
So do you feel that will be a pattern that you could continue long term?
Right. Wow, okay.
Because that's when it's become the issue.
You're right.
You're going to start with 6, 7, 8 months in, and be like, this again.
Yeah, I know.
Every time.
I know. Every time. Oh, once you start saying every time.
That goes against the compatibility of that
Yeah,
brain.
you're right. And, you know, is it even... You know what? I think that's really what's interesting about romance, right? And it's like, do you... You know, you're constantly in this state of, like, give and take, compromise, you know... and then, you know, some people have a different threshold for stuff. You know, meeting people where they are, that's a big thing in psychology, you know? So to me, I feel like I can meet people where they are, you know, and I don't think that would be a deal breaker for me. There's other deal breakers, like, you know, smoking cigarettes in the house or just smoking, period. I can't deal with a chick like that. You know, not someone shaming me for my academic pursuits, as in, like, I like to read a lot, and you're telling me that I don't read a lot. That's a deal breaker, you know what I mean? So, will that bother me, like, 8 months in? No, it wouldn't. 2 years? No. I think I can deal with someone. If
everything else was okay.
Yeah. If there's other things, in general, like, most things are fine.
So you wouldn't feel you'd ever need to have a conversation?
No, I wouldn't. Not for that.
Because the point I'm coming to is, let's say for the first 4 months you play along, all things are good.
Oh,
this
honeymoon.
person thinks they're, you know, you're good with this.
Sure.
Let's say 5 months in, you're like, I can't take it. I got to tell them that I don't like that. I have to wait. Or you might catch some attitude, or you're done hiding behind the facade of romance.
Yes.
And then they'll end up going, well, I wasn't a problem before. Now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Yes.
So that's a moment, if you are going to suppress it, you're going to probably indefinitely need to suppress it.
Thank you for pointing that out.
It'll end up biting you later.
Yes, that's a bigger problem, isn't it? Right. Because then you see, and that's so strange because in general, right, when we are in the courtship process, right, you are in this state of presenting yourself, the best of yourself, as much as you can. That's how most people tend to do it, right?
And a lot of things you let slide.
And a lot of things you let slide, exactly, right? So you do this like thing, but in doing that, right, whatever it is, like either suppressing your own self and your more true to your nature responses or values, right, or allowing other people to show up in a certain kind of way that it's really just difficult for you to deal with at that moment, right? And you're just like, I want to be cool. I want to play cool. I'm a cool guy. I got this. Everything is fine, right? You end up creating a problem for yourself in the long term because as soon as you try to approach it, right? And they're like, well, hold on here, buddy. Yeah. You know I like to kick cats. Let's kick cats together. That's what we do on Saturdays. You're like, I don't want to kick a cat anymore. Isn't that cool? You know what I'm saying? And then you're just like, okay, now we have an issue. I don't want to kick any cats. They still want to kick a cat. Yeah, I know. That's not fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. That's a big problem right there.
That's why I try and teach to be as much you as you can, or as in like, don't try to hide those things so that's difficult for you, unless you're going to hide them indefinitely, because you're going to run into that problem.
Wow. That's really funny, because I like to see like a Hillary supporter and a Trump supporter date each other and just come right out in the beginning.
It wouldn't work.
It really just first 2 minutes.
It's called Bumble. You put in I'm liberal.
Oh, I see. Right. And she,
or I'm conservative.
Right, or she conservative. Well, there you go. That's being honest right up front.
Yeah,
right.
If they really care, that's probably going to be part of their Bumble dating app or whatever the other dating apps are.
Right. So, I see.
Just putting it out there before we even get started.
Right. Just be honest. If you're a Hillary fan or Burn, you definitely don't want to be with
or an
Trump supporter.
Or a Christian. Probably not going to work out.
Right. Exactly. Those when you have those diametric personality traits or desires or values, we're going to have some issues. Yep. I guess, but then again, can you like not allow for that space where you are able to just see? I don't know. I guess there's a threshold, is what I'm trying to say, of just allowing individuals to just be themselves. And just know that there's no way you're going to get a perfect person. So to think, right, that it's you're how do we deal with the idea that you've allowed the person to be them, not allow for them? I'm sorry, I don't like that power dynamic language. You are accepting and experiencing them for who they are, right? And it might cause you some duress, and you have now I'm speaking about myself, right? I've chosen to now suppress that, to say like, this is something that I guess it is. I play this value system. I have tiers of problems. If they want to kick cats, I'm not on board. If they want to spend 2 hours getting dressed just to go for Chinese takeout, guess what? I'm going to have to deal with that because they don't kick cats. So I kind of like weigh things out, and to me, I feel like, okay, they're not perfect. I'm never going to be like their perfect ideal person. So that's why I tend to like not feel that there's an issue with me suppressing parts of myself in that manner.
That makes sense. Yeah. Everyone has different thresholds on that.
Yes, and I feel that defines a lot of like how things manifest themselves as they maturate. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you were to take taking the conservative and a liberal example, it's possible that you could be different political parties if you have some sort of acceptance and allowance for each other. It'd probably balance out a relationship.
Sure.
But I think you'd have to be more... You can be extreme right and extreme left. They likely will clash, but maybe more towards the middle.
Right. A centrist on both sides.
Closer to a centrist, maybe like leaning both ways, one way or the other.
I like it.
Then it becomes possible.
Right. But then at that point, I guess we're talking about a whole other kind of like... personal work that's been done.
Exactly,
right?
The personal work is important.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah, that does, because I know for myself, I'm not particularly interested in just being labeled as like a liberal or conservative, because I can see there are certain characteristics that I have that are also conservative, you know, and I'm just like, well, I wouldn't say that I'm conservative. I definitely know that I have some conservative like characteristics, some traits, you know, but I'm not conservative, and I'm also not a liberal in certain ways. I'm like, that's crazy, you liberal, you know, like, so there's the things that liberals do that I'm just not on board with, you know.
Same.
And there are degrees of liberalism, and then conservatism, same thing, but I would say that I'm more of an amalgam of the two, and I definitely don't hop on any one side, you know, to say that I'm more one or the other. So in that sense, if I encounter somebody that mostly identify with one, and we can still have that conversation, that they can see that there's some parts of where they are in the world in regards to their worldview might not be fully correct, then we're going to have a great relationship, because no one's always 100% right about anything, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's an ongoing conversation. So in that sense, I guess that's why I tend to be a little bit more open to just being able to suppress parts of myself that want to exert, emphasis on my values in the world, and how there might be some conflict occurring.
Yeah,
you know?
I like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's cool. I had a moment of feeling we're a tiny bit off topic, but I realized we're not off topic.
Oh no, we're totally on topic.
It's a broad topic.
It is a broad topic. You can
like,
go.
wow,
For hours. I mean,
Yes.
you know, it's just you and I and our personality types and our proclivities. You know, if we had another person, they would probably experience this excerpt very differently. You know,
Absolutely,
and listen,
yes.
fans, if you're listening to us right now, definitely go ahead and write your ideas about this, how you experience what we just talked about, because we don't know what you experience and we want to know. So go ahead and send us a message. You know, you got Darlene's information, you have mine. Definitely reach out to Darlene. She's the expert on relationships. So you need to share with you. We want to hear your ideas about that type of structure of a conflict. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Because we can dive into another excerpt from the book that kind of adds another example to verify to support what was initially shared.
Yeah, that's Yeah, let's move to the example, because I think we're like leaning less towards children and more towards couple bonds, so that makes sense, because most of the first excerpt was on children.
Children, right.
So we'll go to this.
Should we go back to children? Talk about children? And how...
I mean, we could, maybe we would be talking, but neither of us are parents, so both of us would need to be talking from our childhood experience.
Right.
Like mixed messages you've got in your childhood.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, I got one for you.
All right.
I got one for you. So you're correct. I have no progeny, but I am I act as a parent figure when I coach kids, right? When I teach kids, right? Guardian, I suppose, not really a parent. Whatever. Parents are guardians too. So something like that. I take care of kids. I'm a caretaker, right? When these children are left with me, and I have to support them emotionally and physically through their lives for those hours that we are together, I'm taking care of them, right? And they defer to me a lot of their questions about life and their goals, you know, and their anxieties and fears. I help them work through those things too, right? So as what I have encountered, right, which I have done this and I continue to do this, where I've deceived them with something about what they have done that have created an issue for myself, right? So, for instance, yes. So, let's go into this idea of. I'll try to give you an example. I have a student that is fairly not the hardest worker, right? And because the student is not the most engaged with the amount of effort necessary to achieve the quality of gymnastics that I'm trying to teach, what happens is we end up she can feel that I'm annoyed at her, You know, she can feel. I can see that she's aware that I'm annoyed that she's not working hard enough, like everyone else, right? And because I am aware of her, aware that I'm aware that she knows that I'm frustrated that she is not working hard enough, right? What happens now is like her body language is what's going on. Now I have to. And I'm sorry, let me remove the violent communication language. I choose, right, to maintain a positive attitude in practice. You know, like, oh, come on, we got to try a little harder. Let's do this, right? But in some sense, right, I am literally lying to her, right? Mm-hmm. I know what my honest feelings are. She knows that something's not right, whether she has the language to describe it, right? Mm-hmm. That the coach is not really happy with me, you know, or something. But she might not know what it is at this current moment. It might be 10 years from now she figures it out. Like, oh my God, I was such a lazy kid in gymnastics, you know, and my coach was always so angry at me, you know. Who knows what it is? I hope not to touch her future in any negative manner. But that's a really great example I can think about, that I'm literally living in the form of deception. And she is aware of it. And if I were to like engage with her some more, there's no way that I will ever reveal that I'm angry at her, because to me, I'm trying to maintain this facade that we all should try a little harder, or we can always do a little more, you know? Mm-hmm. And the kid is like, dude, man, I'd rather be home right now playing on my freaking, like, iPad, you know what I mean? Who knows what the kid's priorities are at that moment? But the point is, they're there, I'm there, and we have a goal, and your parents dropped you off, and you're totally dependent upon them. You might have wanted to stay home today if you were able to take care of your own self, but you didn't, and you can't. So here we are. Let's make the best out of it. You know what I mean? And that's not how a kid thinks about the world. That's how an adult thinks about the world. Yeah. You know? So they're encountering my frustrations with them not being there. And I could totally rewire my mind to be able to suppress that kind of like a psychophysiological response to what I perceive as like this kid being like, oh, uninterested in their work ethic. I could do that over time and totally suppress it. But I give you this example because I haven't done that successfully. Mm-hmm. I do get irritated, you know? Mm-hmm. And I do live in a duplicit kind of world where I hide that and I maintain like, jolly Coach Lex, let's go, we have stuff to do, you know? And that's, but I'm lying to the kid. And that kid's reality is being warped by the fact, you know? And you have to ask yourself too, as a caretaker, right? Mm-hmm. Does that child have the faculties to engage me? In a way that, like, can I have this conversation about this kid about, like, if you work hard right now, you're going to do really good in 2 years? I mean, do they even care? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that a conversation you're going to have? And then do I have is the environment primed for that? Mm-hmm. You know, when I have to, like, keep everybody on task? You know, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, and I don't get to decompress after. They go home immediately. We're not, like, hanging out at the bar, like, listen, dude, you know, you should have done more pull-ups, you know? So I don't know. It's like a weird kind of place where you pick and choose when you confront or not. You know, so you rather live in deception. So in so many ways, I don't. You know, I do it all the time. I do it frequently to kids.
That's a great example. Yeah.
So then what? What am I supposed to do in that scenario?
Best way to solve that.
Or even is it something to solve other than me solving me and my response to that? I don't know, but that's my solution.
Can you solve your anger toward it?
Sure can.
Then that's probably the solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ultimately, you cannot control that child.
Yes.
So the other option would be to have an exploratory conversation with her to figure out, you know, why aren't you really like showing up to this practice, super enthusiastic to work. You know, you're not feeling well. Do you not really want to be here? Or your parents trying to make you be here? Like, you just try and figure out their goals and have a conversation with them. I mean, those are the two routes that I would notice to go.
Right.
So it depends if you can have that conversation with a child.
Sure. I mean, I don't know how many 5-year-olds can handle that, you know. But
that's true.
I'm not opposed to approaching a 5-year-old that way.
You can switch your language in a much softer, very easy to understand words for a child if you need
Softer? You want me to be softer than what I am right now? Listen to how soft I am.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Soft, just talking to them like they're a child.
Right.
Giving their brain time to process.
Sure.
Giving them nice pauses when you ask them questions and don't like force an answer, like prompting an answer from them. You give them time and space. Usually takes a child a little longer to formulate their thoughts, which is a really funny process. So I think there's ways to have an exploratory conversation if you want to go that route. Otherwise, the more honest thing would be learn to actually not have an anger response at all.
Absolutely.
Because the child will feel it otherwise.
Absolutely.
Or smell it as the neurotransmitters and the olfactory senses.
Right.
How we smell each other's emotions.
Gotcha.
But
I smell like anger. That's what I can tell you right now. I'm like code green.
And your eyes and your mouth, all those things that show anger. So yes, children can definitely sense it.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And like I said, sometimes we are a hodgepodge of emotions at any one moment, the truth is most times I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. That would be the primary word to describe my emotional state. Just feeling a lot of disappointment. I also feel my own personal stuff gets wrapped up in there where I feel devalued a little bit. I recognize that that's some of my trauma that's talking. I'm like, oh my god, I worked so hard on the syllabus today. Why is this kid not honoring this? I'm like, dude, a kid's 5. I don't care. Or at least not right now. Maybe in 2 weeks.
If she's super sensitive and it comes across as disappointment, that may also make her want to work less. Yeah. If she's sensing that. That's another layer to explore. Right.
Just to let you know, Internet, I'm a really good coach, and I really care about kids. I'm not mean to any of them, but I am human, and I'm talking to you in a blog, and I'm I'm revealing some things, because this is just gives us some content that is really tangible. Others can really understand instead of the third person without any pronouns or whatever. But yeah, so. Right, I see what you're saying. The kid can still pick up on those things.
Absolutely.
And in so many ways, I'm undermining the reality that we both are sharing. And I don't know. Is it wrong just to keep this facade of jolliness though? Like Coach Schleck's so happy. He's so happy.
It's a good question. Is it wrong? What do you define as wrong?
I guess if it causes harm.
Okay.
Right?
That does cause her some emotional distress. Where we define... Because you are also trying to accommodate other people that are in the same class. So
right.
You can't put too much attention on her. You can't be shifting your emotions just to support one person. So you're trying to keep the overall class in a happy space. Is that your goal?
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, so she's getting a group. You dealing with a group of people, still individualized, so it makes it a little more difficult.
I see.
If you were working one-on-one, then
right.
you need to have a completely different conversation about it. That might be more honest for you to either learn to suppress the disappointment, as in not have the disappointment,
right?
That she can sense or feel it. But on a one-on-one level, I think it would be worse on a one-on-one level to have that. But if you're trying to maintain the group and keep the group happy and moving along, then I don't think you can adjust your emotional state for everyone in the class. So I don't know if there's a solution for that in that group, right. in that dynamic.
Right.
But on an individual level, if you were just coaching her, I would say definitely you need to address it more.
Right, of course. I guess that the example I gave was a little challenging because of the need, my distributed efforts to try to maintain as many people's pleasant experiences causes a little bit of a challenge to approach this in a way that's conducted super. I don't know, the best approach, I guess, best practice.
It would be if you have one child in class that just spends most of the class crying. You can't sit there and baby them the whole time. You have other students to teach.
Sure.
And if you were frustrated with the fact that they're just unnecessarily what feels to you like this is a lot of unnecessary crying. You should just get to work. That same concept would apply to that. You can't just stop and worry about them. You also have to keep the overall let's all have fun and be happy kind of feeling for the rest of the group. So
have you had any instances that you can recall that you were the child, or you did something like that to a child?
I can think of one instance where I was with a child and I had to set a day aside to spend time with a child, and then the day came and I was not emotionally present with myself because I was like dealing with my inner stuff. And so I couldn't be present with the child. So technically I was emotionally unavailable that day to the child. And they could sense it. And they kept trying to connect with me. And I couldn't connect with them because internally I was really disconnected because I was like going through my own stuff. And it was really difficult because I could tell as the day passed, like her disappointment kept building. And it caused like a big disconnect with us. And I kept trying to like force it. Like, oh, let's just have fun. I'm happy, when really I just wanted to sit and cry because I was processing my own stuff. And then she picked up on that. And I think it definitely, I feel like after that day, like our relationship still struggles on and off. That disconnect happened. So I don't know if I should, maybe the best approach would be to have a conversation with her about it and say, I was just having a hard time. But she's a child, doesn't understand my adult world and what I'm dealing with and going through because she has no other information. She's just going to feel like Darlene doesn't want to hang out with me right now. I was so excited for this day.
Can you imagine her talking about like your credit scores bombed? Like, oh my god, I'm so bad. My credit sucks. It's like, anyway, go ahead. Sorry. I want to talk about this kid about my credit score.
Yes,
yeah,
totally.
Sure.
Or my relationships. Oh my god.
Oh my god, exactly. I don't know if that person's going to call me. That incident from last night. Yes. I was just drunk. You know what I mean? 5-year-old or 8-year-old? You know, exactly. That's an awkward conversation,
yeah.
But go ahead, yeah.
And that's a moment where you don't necessarily want to bring those problems to a child because they're not equipped to deal with that. So that would fall a bit into emotional enmeshment.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're dumping things on a child that's for an adult.
Thing. Yes.
Yeah. Something you need to talk to a therapist about.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny you say that, but I have met adults that would share those things with a child. And their argument is like, well, the child is so pure with their ideas of the world. Yeah, that's what I've heard. You might be laughing, but that's what I heard. And I was just saying to myself, like, okay, well, you know what? A child is pure. The child has no filters. Yeah. They haven't developed those types of weird things that we do. That the talking in metaphors, the actually of saying what we don't really mean, but we really mean this. You know, kids don't do that stuff yet, so they're not sarcastic yet. And if they are sarcastic, they're not sophisticated with it as much. You know, so yeah. People's idea of this child being pure, I'm like, oh my god, have we just ascended the tiers of stupidity? Because that was the dumbest thing I just heard just now. You know. Anyway, so you know, yeah, sure, granted, I would never want to talk to a child about those things, and if I did, they would be really, really kind of just a lot of metaphors and a lot of like analogies. You know, I'd be like, I remember Barney. That big, beautiful dinosaur just didn't show up on time. Remember that episode? That's how I feel right now. You know,
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. To talk about my date that didn't show up. Party the date. You know. Anyway, you get what I mean? Yeah, kid. All right, cool, nice.
Yes. So, from my story, it would have been a better idea had I stopped and checked in with the child and told them, I apologize, Darlene's dealing with some things, it's not about you, I'm going to try and be present with you, maybe give them a hug and say there's nothing wrong with you, just to check in with them and make sure that they know that I'm not experiencing them negatively, because they don't have enough of ways to filter the world yet accurately, where they will think that Darlene's just upset with me, she doesn't really want to be here, when I really wanted to be there. I genuinely, and I was frustrated in myself internally that I couldn't show up, because I was also looking forward to it. I'm like, why did that have to happen yesterday? Because
you're a failure.
Yeah. I felt like a failure.
You're a big failure. Yeah. Dropping kids' hearts left and right.
Yes. So hindsight says next time that happens, I will definitely be more honest with the child so that they know that it's not them and they were not frustrating or annoying me, or they didn't do anything wrong that day, which they really hadn't. It was actually healing for me for them to be around in a way, because they're beautiful way of seeing the world and da 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 da.
Yeah, unfiltered.
Great.
Yeah,
yes.
totally.
Where we're having all these adult problems.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
So that would be an example that I have, that I've not been honest with the child. I would say that it's a way of like me trying to appear one way when I'm not really present, and they know it and they feel it. We both know it. We're not saying it to each other, but we're both aware.
And now you see, I'm not the only one that damages children's minds. I'm not the only one. So if you're an adult and you've done this to a child, you can just go ahead and talk to us. We want to know. We want to hear about it. Go ahead and comment. And do all that wonderful stuff you do right where this blog is posted, because we want to hear from you and what kind of damage you've done to those children. You know, we call it it's called touching the future. So we want to hear about you and the way you've touched the future of some little kid. All right. Hey, how about we go into that little excerpt from the book that kind of it's a story, and that kind of supplements the original excerpt. Do you mind?
Sure.
What's going on now?
My intuition had me ready for that. Are you ready? Think that?
You know, actually,
we actually pre-planned it.
Guess what? You actually made me make that transition because you picked up your phone, right? So it was actually a micro dance that happened between the two of us, and I was so subconsciously experiencing your body language saying we should move on, and then all of a sudden my executive branch kicked in and made me feel like I actually was making a choice to move on, when in truth it was my subconscious that made us do this, and it was all because of that micro dance that you just did with me.
That was really cool.
Awesome.
Beautiful explanation of intuition.
Intuition, yeah, my favorite.
Alright, so the story goes. One couple has been deeply involved for several months when they begin talking about the possibility of living together. In this instant, the man initiated the conversation following a particularly close romantic evening. However, soon afterward, the young woman became uneasy when she realized they had only spent one evening together over the previous week. When she asked her friend if he was pulling away from her for some reason, he became angry and acted insulted, denying the real message of his behavior, all while insisting he still cared for her. The woman felt confused and depressed until she finally admitted to herself that her lover was trying to deceive her about his waning interest. She was still pained by the rejection, but regained her sense of perspective after she saw through his duplicity. She would have been less disturbed had she noticed sooner that his actions belied his reassurance of love.
Wow.
So I can find a lot of issues with this.
Do say.
Alright, so let me get started on this. First of all, I noticed they're talking about moving in together after several months. That's like alarm number one.
Shotgun weddings after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they've only known each other for several months, that's not long enough to know someone to move in. Then definitely not move in romantically. I mean, it would be ideal if you know someone for some time.
Yes, sure. What do you think would be give us a number? What do you think is a good amount of time?
It's different for everyone. Okay. So
let's say we have two well-adjusted individuals.
Well-adjusted individuals, they just met?
Yeah.
From the moment they just met?
Sure.
Well-adjusted, self-aware, having a fairly, having suppressed, like, having any sort of, like, delusional honeymoon phase. That's not just, they're being fairly honest with each other, so they're not wasting their time with the mask. I would say, like, probably
2 weeks, I knew it.
Nah.
Alright, cool.
I was going to say a year.
Alright, a year. Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'd want to also be sure that, I mean, you can get along about some basic stuff before that, too.
Yeah, the whole Trump thing. Yes. Hillary, you know.
Yes.
Who's going to watch this on CNN tonight?
Exactly.
Gotcha, right. Alright, sounds good.
That would be like my ballpark. For somebody who's very well adjusted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In this case, it looks like he's called her friend, so my next question is, they're still friends, and they're talking about living together. It's interesting.
Right.
And this happened after a particularly close romantic evening, and we all have heard instances of men saying lots of things after a particularly close romantic encounter. that are not true.
Is that
Or
when
in
the
the middle of it.
oxytocins are flowing?
Exactly.
Like after coitus,
Exactly.
you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
You basically don't believe much that's happening around that time.
That's true. You can say
That's
anything.
one of advice a coach can give you. Don't believe it.
Gotcha.
or let it, filed away as like, that was said, but I need to see actions before I believe that was actually more than words.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, that's her mistake there, is like actually putting any sort of emphasis on it because of the timing that it was said.
Gotcha.
So that's another thing I noticed. And it's interesting that they have only spent one evening together over the previous week, and this was said. I don't think that's depending on their schedules, depending how far they are from each other, one evening a week isn't a terrible amount. Isn't like too little amount of spending time together, especially if they've only known each other several months.
Okay.
So I wouldn't see that as odd that they've only spent one evening before, so she's getting all nervous about this.
Sure.
So it takes out a lot of, how far are they apart from each other? What are their jobs? What are their schedules? Like, what are they working around? How often can they really see each other? So once a week for some people is maybe a normal. There's nothing, like, inevitably alarming about it.
I think right now what's important for any of our listeners is, like, we don't have that information, but that's information Darlene would request if she were counseling those two.
Absolutely.
At that point, because that's
details
exactly, because those details are really important, and they change the way that it just changes the way the council will be structured, scaffolded around the idea to find a resolution. So I just want to let everybody know.
Thank you for adding that in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So important. Those are absolutely important questions to ask, because depending on their schedules and their lifestyles and how far they are from each other, that doesn't really indicate any sort of, like, does this person love me or not? Is this a fake love? Are we in some sort of fantasy? Is there a delusion? It might not be. It might simply be that's the best our schedules match right now. It might change later. Sometimes it might be worse than others, depending on job schedules and etc. Adulting that we all have to do.
Sure.
We're not like, teenagers anymore. We're like, I have lots of time. My parents are paying the bills.
Oh, those are the days. Let's go to the mall, baby, and be steady.
Yes.
All right, I like it.
We can spend Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday together, and Saturday and Sunday and Monday.
That's right. I will text all day and all night.
Yes.
I will send selfies.
Do you have a job? No. Mom pays for my rent.
Exactly. Sounds like a great deal.
Yes. The next question I would ask that's missing from this is, she talks to him about it, but the question is, how did she communicate this to him? That's very important. If she came at him with, like, accusing language, and she's upset and angry and saying, like, you don't love me, you don't care, any sort of, like, hurt-filled language that's very, very common with a lot of violent communication. You feel this way, you think this way, you do this, you do that.
Oh, I love
you
those.
Always,
you're telling me how I think. You're like, well, I don't even know how I think. And you know something about me that I don't know. That's remarkable.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
So depending how she approached this conversation, it makes sense that he would become angry or feel insulted, because when he's feeling insulted, he might have been insulted.
That's a great way to expedite pulling back. If you want someone to pull back, let's just go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Sure, I gotcha.
Yes.
Loud and clear. I will not do that again. All right.
Yes. So he became angry and acted insulted, denying the real message of his behavior, all while insisting he still cared about her, which is very likely he did still care about her. Don't know the context of this, but what she did will definitely cause a pullback. So I actually have a lot of problems with this excerpt. I need a lot more information to think that, now that I'm really reading it and dissecting it, I'm like, oh, there's so many things wrong with this.
Yes.
She feels confused and depressed until she finally admitted to herself that her lover was trying to deceive her. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe his interest really wasn't waning. Sometimes men need space to, like, I wonder what I'm feeling exactly. I need some time to go to a man cave and process all of this emotion that I'm not accustomed to having. And men need that space, so it's better to not think that that's definitely waning interest and just allow that space to happen.
You know what? Because you just said that, right? It reminds me of another thing that I used to struggle with. Someone has said to me once that because they can tell that I was obsessed with the velocity at which change happened for some people, and it would bother me tremendously. Brought a lot of duress to me, right? And it was like, instead of just being appreciative of the journey and the experience that they were having, right? I was getting so obsessed about, like, you need to get to this place now, or in 2 hours, or 6 days from now, and it would cause me a lot of weird duress when I would just embrace the journey that was happening, So in some sense, right, it reminds me as we analyze this, right, and you just said what you said to me. I remember the importance of just not, for a woman like her in that situation, to not jump to conclusions, to not think that her timeline is more important than that person that they're trying to like seek a deeper, meaningful, romantic connection with. Like, they need to do these things at this time, and that means that they really love me or not. I've heard those conversations before, and I've never really thought about how insane it is. The velocity is what validates or invalidates the person's authenticity or integrity, and I feel like that's another example of, like, well, we need to have open conversations about things versus just living in our heads and contemplating all these things, which just drives us crazy and creates these like irrational responses that the other person can't even respond to with any accuracy because they don't know what's hitting them. They're like, this came out of nowhere. So I'm sure that's what's happening. That's something that could be happening at that moment there.
Absolutely.
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Why did I say sorry? We're having a conversation. Go ahead.
You didn't interrupt me.
Okay, great.
I'll let you know if you did.
Indeed, you bet you will.
She was still pained by the rejection, but gained her sense of perspective after she saw through his duplicity. Again, I don't know that there was duplicity. She would have been less disturbed if she had noticed sooner that his actions belayed his reassurance of love. Again, I don't think this is a particularly good example after rereading it more. But it's a really great one to explore.
Absolutely.
I really don't. If she's doing it the goddess way, she'd just be like, yo, peace out. I'm going to go get my nails done. I'm going to get a massage, make myself feel good about myself. I'll see you later.
Amen, sister. Love that.
Yeah, so that's a better response to it. And then just, like, as time goes on, see, like, how do the actions actually play out? Right. And give it, like, a little space and time versus... And, like I said, weighing words that are spoken in the heat of the moment is generally a bad idea. Oh,
sure. Nothing sweeter than saying how much I love you after that good coitus.
That's true.
Oh, we're gonna be so happy together. I can't wait to, we're gonna, all those things. Yes. Sure. Forever. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I know what you mean.
The brain's a little high at that point.
Indeed, anything can sell me anything.
That's true.
All of a sudden, the one person that's like totally into Trump, what'd you call it? Hillary is like, let's go to the Trump event. Yeah, I love you, baby. So yeah, I don't know. I suppose anything can happen after like those high oxytocins start flowing, and
absolutely
those experiences do come up. It's a great it's a great way to like manipulate people too. And you think about if you want to try to like suppress their anxieties, you can use those moments of high oxytocin to just try to like maintain this or delay the reality of like what your true intentions are, which would suck for the recipient, which no one's advocating manipulation in any way, but it does happen.
It absolutely does happen. Yes.
And that's something that I think I've heard I've heard my mother talk about it, I've heard other women talk about it, where they have the best moments together, or having such great times together, like, oh my god, I don't understand why that didn't follow through, and we were having such a good time. We're like, we were having such a good time. Did you hear that part? You two were both in this high agreeable state. You know what I mean? And then someone sold you fire from a candle. And you're like, I think I'll buy that fire from the candle. Okay. And then here you are. How many shillings do you want for this fire from a candle? I'll take 6 of those fires from a candle. But anyway, the point is like you got sold something that's like easily accessible, you know, or should be easily accessible, and then you're just like, oh my god, you think it's so valuable, you know, and it's a really lame way to control another person, feed their hopes, and then not really follow through. Disappointing.
It is a super common tactic of. I see it more in men.
Yeah.
Of like doing that.
Men
like,
doing that to women,
yes,
right? Yes.
Stringing them along, particularly during the more sexual moments of the relationship, which again, things are good for them then. They're not dealing with if that person, like again, you said it's a highly agreeable state. All the other issues that you're dealing with don't pop up then.
Oh, I see.
In that time space. So it's easy to make a lot of promises. And I think some people actually may even believe that. They may not actually intentionally be lying. They really want that, but then when reality hits, they're like, oh, wow, okay, this is actually reality now.
Oh, man.
So maybe their intention isn't always to lie. So I would add that in there.
Yikes, you really open up something really important right now.
Yes.
Okay, let me just echo this back to you, because that was really uncomfortable, the awareness that you just pointed out.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, anytime.
As usual.
Absolutely. You'll send me a bill later.
I was born.
Exactly.
Superwoman.
Exactly. I can feel a bill coming later. Anyway, yeah, you know, I have experienced that before where my intentions were very clear and I said those things, right? But then the true mechanisms, you know, the protocol to get to those things were not in place, or I didn't have the skill sets to do it, or they didn't have the skill sets to do it, you know? And so then at that moment, like, I couldn't condemn myself or them for not following through. I just realized, like, okay, they didn't lie to me, or I didn't lie to them. It was just, it felt good. I felt like that's really what I wanted to do intentionally. I was high. Exactly, you know?
You were absolutely high.
Absolutely.
Sex is high. I mean, it's a drug.
Yes, absolutely. And so then at that moment, here I am feeling that these things are things that are we can accomplish together, you know? And these are good ideas, and then they didn't come to fruition. So yes, I definitely understand that. And I guess at that point, you know, I have been a recipient of those empty promises, or misguided ideas, or incomplete ideas, or intentions without. Basically, it's like a head without a body. You know, lots of ideas, but you can't go anywhere. You know,
that's a good metaphor,
right? Exactly.
I like that.
Right. So like those kind of things. You know, I can't condemn the person for that. I just can say like, okay, wow, well, that didn't happen, and that was something that it felt good. It was great. I got a hit of like oxytocin that was like really awesome, you know. Thanks, and you know, whatever. It's kind of like a bit of a bump of cocaine or something. I don't know, whatever drug you like, but that it was short lived, very ephemeral, and here we are, and it didn't come to fruit, you know. And I don't know. I don't think I would condemn the person for that. I don't think I would ever say anything negative to them or make an issue out of it. But yes, I get it. You're right. I wouldn't consider them a liar at that point. Definitely would not.
Yeah. I think there's a small portion of people that will genuinely lie during those times. But I think a lot of people, yes, they're really just feeling that they're high, and the intention isn't like, I want to really deceive this person. There's a much more complex things happening. And a lot of people will simply say, oh, that person lied to me. But it, like I said, it may not be the intention of a lie. You explained it even more beautifully with the way you worded it as well.
Thank you.
The mechanisms just are not in place in one or both of the people to actually create a productive relationship or produce on the promises that were made.
Gotcha. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, hey, that was really a lot of fun, Darlene. I learned a lot. I hope that you felt that I did a good job co-hosting this with you, because I mean the topic itself is vast, you know, and I know that we can continue to talk about it for a very long time. and look at other different angles. But you know what? Sometimes we're all out of angles, and then we need you as a fan listening to us right now to give us some other angles on this story. So go ahead and make sure you give us a comment wherever this blog is posted you encounter, because we want to know your opinions on your experience with being a person that has not really been honest with the way you feel and have acted in a way that is considered duplicit. So we want to know. We want to hear about you and your duplicity and the amount of children that you've touched in the future with your duplicity, and adults too, in romance. Yeah, sure. I'm Lex Peters from Motion Design Studio. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Darlene, do you want to? Darlene is a relationship coach, and I want to just thank her so much for just spending time with me to talk about these really important things. Relationships are one of the most important things in our lives. We can have a lot of bad experiences, terrible health, but our relationships are the things that we fall back upon to like help us through those times. And without great relationships, we are even doomed for even more illnesses. So these things are really important, and that's why I feel that blogs like this really are fundamental in helping people get to that better place of a deeper, meaningful connection with each other. And if you need assistance getting there, Darlene Zimmerman is definitely going to be the one of the many people that offer these. Offer this kind of support to you. So, Darlene, do you want to tell them a little about your practice, what you're doing?
Yes, sure. So,
how they can find you, all that good stuff too.
Yeah, you can find me as Darlene Zim on Facebook, and also Metanoia Healing Arts and Metanoia Healing Arts on Instagram. I would say I just basically coach relationships. It's the best way to sum it up. I tend to want to and to specialize in long-term monogamous relationships and creating like a healthy couple to help create healthier children and healthier nets in the children. So my goal is to create really harmonious romantic relationships, and the same principles go to other relationships as well. It's not just for monogamous, but I tend to put my focus on that long-term committed relationship, which is ultimately my goal. And then the other focus I do enjoy working on is conscious uncoupling and how to break up in less dramatic, harmful ways. So yeah, those are the two main things I do, and you can send me questions or inquiries for coaching sessions on either my Instagram or my Facebook, or like me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook. I post a lot of things you can join in on, discuss, and get some cool content from.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you and your voice, and definitely reach out to us. If you have a question you want to ask, please post it wherever this blog is posted, and we'll definitely try to respond. We'll field your question, and with your permission, obviously, explore it in a with you too, if you're available to talk about it with us in real time. Okay, so I look forward to hearing from you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.